Welcome, beautiful people on the blockchain island Malta. I'm here at E&S, which is not Ernst and Young as we found in the last interview.
No,
it stands probably for Ellul and Sigmund, I would say.
Yeah, he looks like a Sigmund actually. No, it's Schranz.
It's Schranz? Okay.
Yeah, who's a German surnamed guy who's not German.
Yeah, Frank. No, Karl.
Karl, yeah.
Karl Schranz. Who decided that it's E&S and not S&E?
Alphabetical order, you know. So it's
Say it again?
alphabetical order, you know. E comes before S.
Okay, alphabetical.
I
But it was a little bit, because of course you want to be the first. No, S&E would also be nice. No?
We can consider the next board meeting, you know, but I think we're pretty now branded as E&S.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about the history. How did you start off here in Malta? How did you become a big consultancy in Malta?
Yeah, I mean, we've been like 10 years in the industry as corporate service providers. So we're licensed as corporate service providers, trustees, numerous other licenses. I'm a warranted lawyer focused on international tax. Karl is basically an accountant who studied in finance. He was working in a bank abroad, JP Morgan. I was working at Big Four, not Ernst & Young, another one. And we just thought, okay, let's do this together. You know, we can set up a company that does consultancy for international client bases. And we, 10 years ago we started, and now we're 45 people. You know.
Very beautiful people, by the way.
Thanks. You just saw one passing, yeah?
Yes. What are the main services that you provide at the moment?
Yeah, so as corporate service providers, our bread and butter is setting up companies. So basically a Malta company and all the related, what I call the domiciliation services, you know, company secretary services, registered office, and some other related stuff. We then obviously offer all ancillary services. So we have a legal team that works on that. We have accountants upstairs that do all the accounts, back office, VAT returns. We have corporate administrators, secretarial, so anything which is needed for international clients using Malta, we can basically provide.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, just out of personal interest, in your industry? It's competitive, and also the market is changing, so there are new regulations coming up. What's the key to success in your field? What do you think?
I mean, yes. I mean, competition is healthy. It keeps people sort of, you know, being more on the edge. I think having the competitive edge is basically being reactive to clients, giving them a good service. You know, managing their expectations. Nowadays, people in the world think everything is, you know, I want everything yesterday. While at the same time compliance, regulation are becoming more difficult. So things cannot happen yesterday, things are taking a bit longer. So you just manage their expectations so they understand that what we offer, there's a value added, but it takes some time. It's not just set up a company in half a day.
Here in Malta, we're on the blockchain island. You were at the forefront right from the beginning, very interested, attended the Bitcoin meetup early. And what is your view on it? Are you more afraid that registration of companies could be done fully automated in the future, or what is your view?
I'm not scared of automation. I mean, I think that's what we need. We need more automation. You know, unfortunately, if it's human intense, things slow down. So I'm not scared of. I think humans will adapt. We will adapt to more automation, and there will be always a value added in having obviously a human person involved in certain processes, either in the structuring of what's happening or not. So that's my least problem, basically.
Mm-hmm. You also know the regulation quite well.
I hope so, yeah.
Tell us from your perspective, what is this regulation all about? What are the key components? For whom it is interesting?
You're talking about the new acts?
The three new bills that were passed.
Exactly. So as you said before, we're one of the earlier, let's say, adapters, or rather the earlier firms in the industry. So we've been assisting clients mainly in ICOs. So we did about 70 ICOs. I explained to you last time, structuring them at the time, issuing only utility tokens as sort of crowdfunding, reward-based crowdfunding events. But we were obviously operating within, let's call it a generally unregulated environment, or rather not specifically regulated. The laws which passed, and I will focus mainly on the Virtual Financial Assets Act as a lawyer, have at least set a legal framework for to cover out, let's say, these grey areas. You know, there's pure utility tokens called virtual tokens. On the other end, there are security tokens, as they refer to, financial instruments. But there was this vacuum between, you know. So basically, we're regulating this vacuum in between, grey area, with these virtual financial assets, and I think that's put us a step ahead compared to competition abroad. I've been speaking in some other conferences abroad, and when you look at the jurisdictional analysis, our competition, other countries, are still sort of working based on a certain interpretation and certain things which are not officially passed as law in determining how they can operate. So there's less certainty. I think what we've done so far is we've set ourselves at the forefront of the industry, calling ourselves Blockchain Island, or as you would prefer, Bitcoin Island, with regulations which will set the standards high and moving forward. So I'm very optimistic.
A bit of a critical question here, because I already heard people were a bit skeptic. From the outside, this whole thing, the marketing is nice and very promising. But for some people it's perceived a bit dubious because it's very complex and it's made by a lot of lawyers and a lot of different people. Do you think how would you respond to the critique that the regulation is more helping a few minority small interest group rather than really servicing the greater good and this making it easy for the people to use the technology? So it's more very complex regulation.
I wouldn't say it's. I think you need some complexity. My point is, you don't want it to be too complex, which is a barrier to business. At the same time, you need to have a certain degree of investor protection. We've seen in the past totally unregulated ICOs raising hundreds of millions. And literally there was no regulation behind it, founders not expecting to raise these funds, not knowing even what to do with these funds. So if you expect to raise tens of millions, I think you have to understand that there are certain costs involved now, and you need to prove to the general public that you are worthy. You can actually fulfill, let's call it a blockchain project you're intending to fund, and that you can actually do it. You have some know-how, you have a background in this, you're not fraudulent, you're not convicted criminal or whatever else. I think it's owed to the general public. So yes, you need to have. I don't think it's overly complex, but you need a minimum standard. To a minimum standard of regulation. I think we found quite a good balance so far. You have a notification procedure to the MFSA. You're not waiting for any specific approvals. There's no licenses in that sense. I'm talking about ICOs at the point for now. Of course, then persons like ourselves who are stakeholders involved, we need to do, again, highly regulated. There'll be a VFA agent license, and that again is needed. So when people come to us, they know that we have certain standards, we're fit and proper and whatnot. So we are used to operating in an environment of regulation. Persons like yourself or the early adapters hate regulation, because it's contrary to your decentralization and all that. But I think it's needed. That's what the balance of what crypto can do and blockchain can do with regulation is what brings it to the general public and makes it mainstream.
These big raises were probably a big anomaly, or it's a phenomenon. How did this happen? Is it just there's too much money in the market, or is it really promising technology? Or is it really the fact that, for the first time there was a permissionless, unrestricted way to raise and invest?
I wouldn't say they were anomalies. You're looking at the earlier ICOs, which were few, or way fewer than now. You're looking at, so basically the choice of where to put, let's say, money in, where to invest in, were less. You are probably looking at early ICOs where investment was happening or participation was happening in crypto. So people would have had Bitcoin, Ethereum and whatnot, which they probably found it difficult to convert to fiat and utilize early on. So okay, what do? I've got all this Bitcoin, let me convert this Bitcoin or Ethereum into, I'll buy some tokens in this ICO. So it was more maybe at a point where there was a diversification of your, let's say, your crypto portfolio. And as I said, since there was less happening, any interesting projects people were sort of throwing money at, and because it was a small market, you saw the value of these tokens initially skyrocket, 10x, 20x, whatever. Now what's happening is, of course, the bar's being raised, one from the regulation point of view, but even investors are being more cautious. There's much more on the market. Earlier ICOs were maybe more groundbreaking. Now people are maybe repeating themselves, doing similar stuff, but there are many more around, so you have more choice, and people are more cautious. Okay, let's get our advisors to have a look at this white paper. What are they really saying? Do these people really exist? Let's check LinkedIn. So you're looking at that situation where, which will explain why today there is maybe a lower raise, keeping in mind also that the market is a bit weak at the moment. The values of crypto are a bit on the downside, so that's also, investor confidence. I assume once, let's say, Bitcoin, Ethereum and the others follow and the prices go up again, there'll be people who are more confident again in putting more let's say, money, more investment back into ICOs.
Reputation is key both for the jurisdiction as a whole, but also for an established brand such as E&S. Can you report a bit of your own procedures and your methodology to do proper due diligence and to distinguish between wheat and chaff, and really give, we don't do, of course, financial advice here, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And also, there are many voices now, more and more in the industry, that also say, look, even if it's a proper team, even if the due diligence in terms of, what's their track record, what's their project, even if this is all fine, then there's still the problem that, it's a big race, a lot of money for a software or a project that hasn't been tested. Where there is no product yet on the market, and many people say 99% of the ICOs will fail. Do you agree with that? And do you see a chance that ICOs become more of really like an IPO in the future, so existing companies can raise to expand?
So let's start from the beginning. Keep in mind that historically most ICOs were basically startups. And they were really decentralized, right? They weren't startups in the traditional sense that it's a company, but really... They were probably startups by people who maybe didn't even have a business background. So startups tend to fail. Statistically, most startups, that's the whole reason. That's why there's a risk in it. That's why you have a risk versus reward, So most startups would tend to fail. And that's why basically initially you would say that most of them have failed. High raises, yes. We also assist clients in tokenomics, for example. You need to look at the tokenomics of a raise. Why are they raising so much internally and all that? How is the token distributed? What percentages are held? What vesting periods are there? But even based on the ultimate business, what's the business model going to be like? Why are you raising 200 million if, for example, your turnover is of 2 million after year 5? Doesn't make sense. So basically, that's important. Due diligence, of course, being we are subject persons for all the anti-money laundering regulations imposed in Malta and the directives from the EU. So basically, we have to do anyway. Before we take on a client, we need to do full KYC. We check their backgrounds and all that. Of course, when it comes to then an ICO, you'd want to look into more detail in the background because they are raising so much. We have certain functions even with our own token, with our E&S initiative, where we're looking at ICOs and giving them sort of a statement of good approval, basically. Exactly. Sorry, I'm stumbling on that. Saying we've done certain checks and balances, and we give them a stamp of approval, like a certificate of excellence, just to add sort of layers of trust. But it's always trust. It's no guarantees. Even the best businessmen can have fantastic ideas, be well funded, and maybe the industry changes, certain factors change. So there's no guarantee, of success ever,
Okay, so the second question now, what is the most, or where's the regulation heading in Malta? Also, it's a learning curve that was stated by the government. What will we see next? How will the transition happen from this really Wild West, no liability, into traditional regulation like an IPO? Will we see something like that, or what? I think you mentioned something last time that we didn't talk about. The newest shit, basically.
No, transition from no liability is always there. People think, ICOs weren't regulated, so you do what you want. No, general principles of law apply. Fraud, theft, misappropriation of funds or whatnot. Those are general principles that apply anyway, whatever you're doing. So people had this misnomer, this misunderstanding that, listen, I can do what I want. I can have even crypto exchanges. I can do what I want. I can manipulate the market. No, these are things which are applied anyway, even if they're not specifically regulated. Yes, going back to the laws, of course, we are at the forefront. When you are the leaders in something, people will look and follow and try and improve on what you're doing. So there's always going to be a learning curve. The laws have been passed and will come into effect end of September, beginning of October. But meanwhile, there's a lot of groundwork happening on actual procedures, internal regulations of how to get there. Crypto licenses, now I assume they're working on applications. So there's a lot of things happening. I foresee also, which is natural, there'll be, I assume, quite a few amendments to the law. Once you start seeing in practice certain things don't work like that, or there are better ways of doing them, the government has always been proactive. They've been asking the industry, us amongst the industry, for feedback, numerous discussion drafts. So they're very proactive, and I think the only way you can improve is if, as an industry, we act together. We don't. Competition is external, not internal. There's so much work. So blockchain is a massive industry. So if we work together, we give feedback from what we're seeing, and the authorities are reactive as they are, I think then we have a winning formula.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Blockchain is the child of Bitcoin, so to say, or I mean, in reality, it's the underlying technology. So the big mother is Bitcoin, and you should always, keep a nice relationship with your mother. How did you encounter Bitcoin first? Was it a friend that told you? Was it a client that asked to pay in Bitcoin? What was your first transaction like?
We discussed this last time. You keep on bringing back the sore points, for me. I mean, I heard about Bitcoin numerous years ago, Initially, like most people, maybe I didn't really understand what it was. I didn't give it much focus. And as I told you last time, one of my clients offered to pay us, 4 years ago, whatever, in Bitcoin, and I said, this is too complex, let's just pay us in whatever it was, euros or dollars. And he keeps sort of bugging me today and telling me, if I did pay you in those days, whatever the amount was in Bitcoin, today it would be worth whatever, 50, 60, 70 times whatever the payment was at the time. But you live and you learn, I mean, we've learned from our mistakes. We do now accept, Bitcoin and Ethereum and other main cryptocurrencies.
That's great. I have a little gift for you. Just let me get it. So we can make it official, because you have a very beautiful entry here, a nice lobby and a nice glass facade, and there's a little sticker with a little Bitcoin. And it doesn't say Bitcoin accepted. We also have Bitcoin accept sticker, but I give you this now because I approve you to accept Bitcoin officially. Make sure you have a hardware wallet. You don't get hacked. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to maybe invite your potential clients again for E&S services?
No, we look forward to. I mean, we're lucky that we get a lot of international interest. People contact us from all around the world, and we're happy to discuss all of their projects, see how we can assist them.
What's the most interesting project so far? Like the most, challenging, or something that really sticked out?
Difficult question. I think probably what it was is doing our own token. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's easy to advise externally. When it's on yourself, you're like, you want to double check. Are we really doing things properly? Are we missing something? So it's that extra level of maybe worry, which was a good exercise for us, because it also helped us realize our clients' concerns. When they're saying, listen, this is my ICO. What do I do? So it helped us improve the way we deal with our clients, I think.
Mass adoption, so it's happening. How do you see the future in the next 10 years? What will happen? How will crypto change our daily lives? How will blockchain projects become reality?
Maybe there'll be those villages you always talk about in South America.
They are, yeah. The South America guys are like Brock Pierce and those guys. Yeah, maybe like Malta has a special economic zone for blockchain projects, something like that.
So that might be something that picks up, but I assume what's going to happen is I'm hoping there'll be less volatility in cryptocurrencies, which will make them more easily adoptable, more mainstream. So we're seeing it already, using credit cards to pay with your Bitcoin. So if they're stable, they will at some point in the future, I think, challenge Fiat. I still think it's a long road ahead, but the potential is definitely there.
Thank you very much, Christian, for the interview. Pleasure. And see you in the next.
Sound work this time.
The sound definitely will work. Buy Bitcoin, be free. No financial advice. And see you in the next video. Great.